you see everything. He climbs over, he assembles the gun, he runs over to the edge, gets down in a prone position, and you see the time. And we all know what time.
All right, well, update in the Charlie Kirk pretrial, as if it was not already looking bad enough for leftist murderer scumbag Tyler Robinson. They apparently have just presented today, as evidence for the court, new high-quality footage that shows Tyler Robinson getting on the roof and taking the shot at Charlie Kirk. This is, of course, compounding with all the other evidence we have, the DNA, forensic stuff, security cam footage, the testimony of his true lovers and others, multiple different times where he confessed to the crime. But of course, one of the major contentions we heard from a certain crowd was that, well, where's the video of him doing it? Because if there's not explicit video, you can't convict someone of murder as if they've never witnessed a murder trial before. Well, that today, ladies and gentlemen, has now been presented to the court, which really makes me have to ask the question, at what point is enough enough? At what point are we just no longer obligated to entertain your stupid conspiracy theorizing and ultimately, as I've said many times, running cover for violent leftists who are trying to get us killed? I'm not sure. I'm sure they're going to proceed to call this footage Fed slop or something. But by the way, if you're wondering too why it is the case that the footage is not currently being released publicly, I'm sure a certain crowd would try to assume that, oh, Erica Kirk and the Turning Point Board and Netanyahu, and they're the people who are hiding the footage. No, it's actually Tyler Robinson's own defense team who is blocking the release of this as public evidence, although one can only hope as this plays out, hopefully when we get the conviction that is so necessary here, after the fact, this will be something that is seen. But yeah, to make a long story short, you add this to everything else, this is not really something up for debate. That's what I want people to understand, right? This is not a thing where we're trying to chase a serial killer from 50 years ago and do we have the proof? It is quite legally indisputable at this point. It's not looking good for Tyler Robinson. He did indeed murder Charlie Kirk. And for the people trying to take this in another direction and again, run cover for violent leftists, we've said our piece on that, but I'll bring you the actual evidence that was showed in court here today. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. That is the best way to support our work, and it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And that said, take a listen here for yourself from the media who was in the courtroom today as to what they saw with their own eyes.
The Tyler Robinson hearing has adjourned for the day and for the entire hearing at the noon hour today. The defense finished with their final DNA witness from the ATF. After that, the judge allowed the family to view, without it being broadcast, the zoomed-in surveillance video from Utah Valley University. The quality was surprisingly high, a lot more detail you could see of the man that is reportedly Tyler Robinson making his way through campus, up and down the stairs, into the parking garage, and even zoomed in on the roof where you can see the man who is reportedly Robinson lying down into that prone position before the shots were fired. As that came up on that video, that zoomed in video, Erica Kirk breaking down in tears, as well as Catherine, her mother-in-law, Charlie's mother, clinging to each other, hugging each other as that video played out. I can't imagine what that would be like to see those final moments before your loved one died. Extremely emotional end to the court day. This will essentially be court out until September 1st. That's when some final arguments will be made. The judge will decide if this will be bound over for trial, and Tyler Robinson will finally have his chance, if it is, to plead guilty or innocent in this case.
You see him shooting Charlie. You see him executing Charlie. You see him take the shot. And so you've seen the video, and Blake, I know you were there, man, and it was like watching Charlie die all over again, seeing this video. It's the most damning thing I've seen all week for Tyler Robinson. With the zoom in, it just changes everything. It's like watching a completely different video, because the one that zoomed out, you can't even see anything. This one, he walks up. It's just like the officer said earlier in the I guess it was day one, that he walks up over the guardrail, goes down, and you could see him kind of working on something. And it's, you know, I believe that's when he was assembling the rifle. He then stands up. He runs very quickly across the gravel roof to the edge. And then when he gets to the edge, you see him go down, and he's in the prone position. And it's, you know, they have this clock, like the timestamp that's up, and it's 12:20. I think it's 12:21, 12:22 when he first gets there, and I'm just sitting there like, stop the clock, like don't, like trying to will time to stop, like don't get to 12:23, like just don't get to 12:23.
Yeah, he is completely screwed, and so are his fans and defenders, and you know exactly who those people are. Because let's not forget what they said. First, the goalposts have shifted so much, but first they tried to say that he was not on the UVU campus at all that day. Then we got a mountain of security footage showing indeed it appears that he was. He's driving a car registered to him and his mom. That car was never reported as stolen. The parents identified that as him. The trans lover identified that as him. It goes on, but, you know, they tried to say, oh, what is this Fed slop? You expect us to believe this Fed slop because the security camera footage is kind of grainy because it's a security camera. Therefore, it's just not true, right? We're just going to choose not to believe it. Do we have evidence of our own, actual evidence? No. We're just saying, hey, but do you really believe the government, and then provide no counter argument as to why you shouldn't, which is not how arguments actually are supposed to be constructed or how evidence works. But, you know, you're dealing with a bunch of people who ought to go back to middle school or something. But okay. So first they said that. Notably, ever since the security stuff dropped, they've been kind of silent, but let's not forget, because people ought to be held accountable, right? You don't get to just do this like Ancient Aliens or Finding Hitler documentary style thing where every week it's a brand new episode and you're just on to something else and never acknowledge that the past 20 times you got proven wrong, right? This is not playing around with conspiracies for fun. This is not UFOs or flat earth. Like, these are things with real world consequences. So to treat it with the same level of unseriousness needs to be pushed back on. So that's why we're doing that. But anyways, so first they said he was not at UVU. Then, of course, the second one is there's no footage of him on the roof. There's no footage of him doing the shooting. What are you talking about? Said this extensively throughout the week. And, you know, these people were just not the smartest, because guess what? Not all the evidence has been presented yet, right, guys? Okay. So now, of course, we have that. Now this today was shown in court. Hey, here's him on the roof. There's him assembling the gun. You can see him in the position to take the shot, all of these things. Again, at what point is it going to be enough? Now, I already know what we're going to hear. Oh, if this footage exists. Oh, and by the way, one more thing I'd like to add. They said, oh, it's grainy. You can't see anything. Therefore, it's not true. Okay, well, according to what was seen today in the courtroom, it was, you could totally see what was happening, right? They managed to zoom in. They managed to enhance it. So there you go. Strike. It's not strike 3 at this point. I don't know. Strike 1,000. But okay. Probably what you're also going to hear from these people is the constant excuse that, well, why aren't they releasing the footage, right? It's a cover-up. It's Fed slop, therefore. I'm sure Erica Kirk and Turning Point are hiding the footage, right? No, that's actually not the case. You want to know why the video that was played today has not been released? Well, take a look at these details. Both the prosecution and the attorneys for the media and Charlie's family, aka Erica Kirk, the grieving widow that you despicable scumbags have tried to slander and accuse of murdering her husband based on no evidence and just literally tried to ruin her life even more than it already could be, and just all the attacks against her, right? All of these people wanted all of the evidence to be viewable by the public, and we actually talked about that earlier in this week. So the Erica Kirk and Turning Point board, who are supposedly engaged here in the cover-up and according to a certain person are in on this basically at this point, actually, as a matter of fact, they wanted people to be able to see this video. Who is blocking it? One party objected to the publication. Tyler Robinson's attorney. Isn't that very interesting? So supposedly the patsy here, the guy who's just being framed, the innocent man, he doesn't want the evidence to be shown, right? But The people who are pushing the Fed slop and engaged in the cover-up, that's typically what you're doing when you're engaged in a cover-up. You want the evidence to be released publicly. What a freaking joke that is. They allege that releasing the evidence to the public would infringe on his right to a fair jury trial as protected by the U.S. Constitution, and the judge has sustained that objection for several exhibits, including the one today. The video is real. I have little doubt, according to TJ Roberts, that the public will see it in due time, which I totally concur with. Although, here is the thing I have also said about this. I'm actually glad to an extent the judge is blocking some of the evidence from going publicly. Not because I don't want to see it, not because I want to cover up, but actually because, as we argued earlier in the week, I don't want Candace or any of her buddies to be able to engage in this jury manipulation, right? Because let's be honest, everyone has internet access. She can try to just do this completely phony, ridiculous rebuttal or try to make these false claims or something that it's fake. But if you put that out into the ether and you release all the evidence before the trial happens, I would argue that actually leaves the door open for jury manipulation. So for me, I have absolutely no problem with them keeping some of the evidence private until the trial is allowed to take place. Once we get a conviction, then everything can be shown to the public. But to me, and I actually disagreed with, for example, Erica Kirk's legal team on this. Although, again, you cannot accuse them of not wanting transparency. But my whole thing is, look, as much as it's important and noble to want to shut up Candace Owens and the conspiracy theorists, for me, it's actually much more important that we get a guilty conviction and this guy receive the maximum possible punishment, if you know what I mean, than, oh, we got this gotcha on the conspiracy crowd who is not going to listen and is going to call it fake anyway. So that's where I stand on all of this. But nonetheless, let's keep a running tally here and let's continue to hold the liars accountable. Here is the evidence that we have thus far that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk, and you can add today's video of him on the roof doing the shooting to all of that. But thus far, we have a written confession, the note left for his roommate saying, quote, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." We have the digital confession, where he texts his partner admitting to the shooting, a set of messages sent to this partner after the assassination, acknowledging the crime. We have this surveillance video from before Robinson on campus on the morning of the shooting. Again, a certain individual on the right of your screen tried to say that, this obviously did not exist and he was not on that campus. We now have, folks, the video of Robinson going onto and on that rooftop, assembling the rifle, taking the shot, lying down, all of those things. We have the surveillance video of him limping before, walking normally after he discards the rifle, right? It was widely speculated he basically is hiding that in his pant leg. The sniper pad, the physical scene with a clear sightline to Charlie Kirk. Former campus officer testified to finding markings of elbows, knees, and feet on the gravel roof in the firing position where prosecutors are alleging the whole thing happened. We have the weapon recovery. Rifle found where video placed him. We have FBI analysis tracing DNA to Tyler Robinson. We have his own mother IDing him. We have the fact that he turned himself in, which I feel like is something we ought not to forget. We have the witness statement, the testimony of his roommate, where the troon said, yes, he literally confessed to doing the crime to me, to my face, under oath, right? We have the forensics, we have the autopsy findings, we have 40 to 50 plus exhibits across a week of testimony. So much, many mountains of stuff. And then, of course, the evidence that Israel or Turning Point, instead of a violent leftist that they're trying to defend, killed Charlie Kirk. It's just this on your screen right here. That's the evidence that, they have. That's all that they have. So, for a reason I have said for months now, my patience with these people is non-existent. You're not asking questions. You're not on a pursuit of truth. You willingly close your eyes and ignore evidence right here in your face. And it would be one thing, again, if you were just some silly alien or Bigfoot conspiracy theorist. You are advocating a theory that seeks to free and exonerate a violent leftist who murdered our guy, our arch patriot, and by the way, also frees and exonerates the millions of leftists who celebrated Charlie Kirk's death and want it to happen to the rest of us. So no, I do not have patience with dumb ridiculous, retarded behavior that, again, is not only wrong, it's not only just substantively dishonest and subversive and all of those things, is trying to get us killed, right? So not only is it dishonest and lying and inaccurate and ridiculous, it's also evil for that very reason, because it's trying to get us killed. Arguably, it's a defense mechanism in itself, because, you know, after that sobering realization that, hey, not only did some random leftist kill him, the left actually does want to kill us. Like, millions of them said that all over. Oh, how convenient is it that the supposed truth tellers, the supposed red-pilled people, they just ran for the hills and said, guys, it wasn't the leftists. We're going to exonerate the leftists. We're going to push a theory that was literally started by Jackson Hinkle, Max Blumenthal, and a bunch of literal self-avowed communists, as we talked about in our last video on this subject, right? We're going to push a literal, actual communist psyop, a communist conspiracy theory. But trust me, we're the real conservatives, you know? It's the other ones, the people who are literally saying, oh yeah, the communists freaking killed him and like they need to be cracked down upon and they're the enemy and they're evil and look, they're saying it in front of your face. No. Those are the people being paid off. Us, the ones spreading the literal communist psyop, you know, clearly this person right here, this person is the good guy, right? I'm the one who's being paid because sure, clearly me saying I don't want me and my friends to get killed by violent leftists, therefore we have to politically defeat violent leftists. That's a take that like clearly it would take any money, right? I have to be paid to say that. Whereas, you know, this person totally, right? She makes record profits and record views right now, and absolutely no heat, no censorship whatsoever, because she's literally serving the left, as we've explained many times. No, that's the real person who's like being shut down for telling the truth. Utterly ridiculous. So we look forward to Exhibit B's individual's response right here. I'm sure she's going to likewise just continue to say that this is all fake. I mean, it would be difficult, I guess, for these people to actually admit that they're wrong. How discrediting would that be? But hey, I'm just going to say, at a certain point, I think we're all going to be owed a bunch of apologies from these individuals, right? And most of all, Erica Kirk, of all people. Think about that, right? The despicable garbage that they've put her through, right? The way they've targeted her, they've tried to make this grieving widow's life even more of a living hell. Actually comprehend that. How low down and just like evil and genuinely demonic is that, right? And to think on top of it, it's like, this is all being exposed as a lie. They were lying from the beginning, but they were using their lie as a pretext to attack this innocent woman who just lost her husband, and now her freaking kids will not even basically have strong memories of their father, never even know their father because they're not old enough, right? All of that based on something that not only is just like blatantly untrue, but then on top of that, as it gets proven untrue, these people double down, right? Double down in attacking the freaking widow. How despicable are they? And compare that, for example, to the behavior of the leftists who celebrated the murder of Charlie Kirk. And please tell me if you can really genuinely say one is at least as evil, if not more evil than the other. I'm just saying. And that's how I view these people. Seriously. They're lower than scum, actually. Lower than scum. Worse than a leftist, worse than the innocent. I'm just gonna say, in my heart and soul, I kind of almost despise them more than I do the very leftists who celebrated the assassination, because I understand that on like a deeper level, you could almost argue what they're doing is more evil. But that's just me. Nonetheless, not very good people we're dealing with. They owe us apologies. We know that's not going to come. We know they're going to double down, but such is life, right? Anyways, that said, let me know your thoughts. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.